Switch this computer. The session is recorded, and we'll be sending all of that out to you folks with notes and links later on after the call.
Oh, we're getting feedback from you now. It's like a double echo or something.
Oh.
We're getting feedback from.
Are you moving around or?
No, it
No,
started, started recording.
Is that a little bit better?
That's much better.
All right, I took my headphones off. Who knows? Thank you, Skip. Thank you.
It's happening again.
The feedback is because people's mics are not muted, so it's playing the audio and then moving it back.
Thank you, Eric. Can everybody mute their mic? All right, I think that is that better? Anybody want to type into the? Okay, I think that might be a little bit better. Okay, great. So I just want to take a moment today to introduce our community partners. We have on the line today, Vice President of Marketing and Community Impact, Charlene Cates. She's here, she'll be presenting. Our state representative, Nicole Grohoski. Shannon Byers, who's a small business advisor with the Maine Small Business Development Center in downtown Ellsworth, and our state senator, Louie Luchini. Thank you to each of you for taking the time out of your day to connect with us in downtown Ellsworth. We will be hearing from each of them during this call, like right around 12:20. But I want to take a few minutes to hear from each of you, our downtown building and business owners, as well as our board members that are on this call. This information is really important for our community partners that are on the call today. They want to connect with each of you, and what you have to say today is really important to inform all of our work so that we can sort of do the best that we can do to make the most of this situation and kind of trying to meet everyone's needs in downtown. So Eric's going to call on each of you, and we ask that you, in the interest of time, that you're as quick as possible, but we want to get you to state your name, the type of business or your position in the community, and your top challenge outside of access to capital that you're experiencing right now. So I'm going to allow Eric to take over and to call on each of you.
Yeah, hi, I'm just going to go down the list here from what I see. If I end up forgetting someone, just chime in at the end and introduce yourself. And don't forget to unmute your mic when you get called on, and then just mute it back afterwards, please. So first up on the list here is Lori Chase.
I'm here. I don't know why I don't have any audio. So, I mean, or video. Got no idea. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, good. So I'm here. Do you want to know my problem?
Yeah, generally it was, yeah, your name, which we know now, business, and then the top challenge outside of accessing capital, which I guess is everyone's challenge at this point.
It's coastal interiors, and selling interior design is become very tough. I've had probably $100,000 in orders canceled the last 2 months. So this is not going to be easy to get through.
Okay, thank you, Lori. Next up is Amanda Tupper.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Amanda Tupper with Machias Savings Bank. I'm really here as the business banker. I just wanted to know what you guys are struggling with and how we can help in any way possible. We have a lot, very similar to what Shannon's probably going to say, where we have a lot of opportunities. We have a lot of programs out there. I just had a customer call asking about like a payroll loan that the SBA is offering. So anything, I'm just taking notes, anything that we can help with, I'll reach out to you and just say, hey, did you know this is out there, that is out there. So, and if you have specific questions, I can share my email information with you guys on the chat.
Okay, thank you. We have Ann Sargent.
there. This is Ann Sargent, and I'm the director of Ellsworth Adult Ed. I heard about this chat and just wanted to listen to what the issues were with the downtown businesses in case Ellsworth Adult Ed can play a role to support you.
Thank you, Ann. Next up is Beth.
Hi, Beth Fendel. I am past president of the Heart of Ellsworth board and a building owner downtown. My husband Skip is here. He's also the building owner. And just we're here to, we ask our specific question and is to see what it is we can do to help our tenants. And I'm just generally interested in what everyone's going through. And how we can help.
Great, thank you.
No,
All right, we have Betsy up next.
Hello, Betsy Arnson. Therapeutic massage for wellness with a studio on Pine Street in a historic 1830s house. So two concerns for me are, how do I redial my skills and talents to provide useful health care when I cannot offer the typical massage services? And another more important one is, what are the initiatives that I can contribute to that support our community and the people working in the infrastructure? So who needs what I can do is my real question.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're gonna skip Charlene because she is coming up after, so it puts us on Danielle Mace. Danielle, you there? All right, we will move on for now, and then she can always come in after. On to Deirdre.
Oh,
Yeah. There you are.
hi. Hi, I'm Danielle Mace. I'm the membership coordinator for the Ellsworth Chamber of Commerce. And I'm here today to sort of figure out what businesses are needing and how the chamber can help in any way. And thanks for the invite.
Thank you. All right, Deirdre, please.
Hi, I'm Deirdre McGrath. I'm a member at Seven Arts. We're a co-op gallery on Main Street. And we don't have employees. That's not really a concern, like payroll, that kind of stuff. But we're mostly just worried about our rent. That's our largest expense by far. And because we're split amongst multiple members, it's, you know, up to like individuals to kind of all pool our resources. So yeah, really just rent is the big one.
Okay, thank you. Looks like we're Heidi, please.
Hi, everybody. It's so awesome to see so many of my friends. I miss you guys so much. But besides that, I have a business called The Artful Aid. I have an office on Main Street as well, which I have not been to for a long time, and I'm super sad about that. I think my biggest concern around all of this has been communications. I think that individually, different entities are doing a great job, and I'm really thankful for that. But what I'm finding for myself, and while I'm able to do this easily, I'm worried about other people who aren't. I mean, every day I'm going City of Ellsworth, Heart of Ellsworth, Chamber of Commerce, Maine CDC. I'm looking at all these different Bangor Daily News, Ellsworth American. I'm spending all this time trying to figure out what's happening and how it might impact our community and how decisions that we might need to make either individually or collectively. And I'm just seeing that sort of this lack of cohesive communication, which I think is natural because this is new and we haven't dealt with this before. But sort of looking forward, it would be nice to think about a way to have sort of a centralized communication method for our community members, especially some of those who are not actively online all the time. I don't have the answer to that. I have like DOT signs on the road might have been helpful to share some knowledge with even visitors coming about, you know, requesting self-quarantine, things like that. So ultimately, I think everyone's doing a great job and I'm grateful for all the info, but I'd like to see a way to plan for more cohesive, centralized communication.
All right, good thoughts. Thank you, Heidi. Looks like we are on to Julie.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am Julie Vittum and I work for Machias Savings Bank, and I am also a board member of the Heart of Ellsworth and a community member for my entire life. I've always lived in Ellsworth, so just happy to be on the call to try to provide any support that I can as in those roles, and just mainly as a community member.
Okay, thank you.
My biggest concern, I echo the communication comment. That's an excellent comment, really. It is difficult to stay abreast of everything. I mean, it's information overload in some circumstances, and in other cases, you feel like you don't have enough information. So I can understand that as an individual and as a business owner in this area.
Okay, thank you, Julie. All right, hopefully I get this pronunciation right, but possibly Kirsten? Okay, we'll see if she comes up. She can go to the end and we'll have last.
Is that okay? I think I did it.
Oh, there you are. Okay, I know
Yeah.
you, never mind.
Yeah, so this is Kirsten Henry. Bay Meadow Cottages is our business in Salisbury Cove, and been a community member here in Ellsworth, Heart of Ellsworth Board, secretary. So, of course, yes, beyond the lack of cash flow from mass reservation cancellations, I think retainment of staff is our primary concern right now. And of course, our season doesn't really kick in until May. So we just want to make sure we can keep them coming, keep those staff employed.
Okay, Kirsten, thank you. Next up, we have Lass.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Lass King and I own Second to None Thrift Store, and my thoughts are about, I hear people, I don't know if there's anybody who needs any fabric, but anybody in the community who might be trying to make things for our health efforts, for our doctors and nurses anyway, but I would be happy to donate, clothing that could be turned into other things from my store, and I don't know how I might do that. If there are crafty people out there that are making things for the doctors and nurses, and also, of course, I'm worried about paying rent and paying employees and paying my vendors, and so those are the things that are on my mind.
All right, thank you, Lass. That's a great offer. And I know there are a few people who are doing that currently in the community. So that might play more into later about having the centralized kind of communication effort.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we're going to skip Louie and Nicole because they are coming on right after this. And I think we're down to Pamela.
Hi, this is Pamela Elias. My husband and I own Rooster Brother. Am I on?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. We're currently open for pickup or mail order, and everyone is coming to work. We're fully staffed, and we have plenty of product. Of course, we have lots of coffee. We just got a huge shipment of pasta, and it's working well. Hours that we see. So my main concern is how to keep everybody employed if we have to close due to lack of business or some other ruling, whether we let them all go on unemployment or whether we somehow meet the payroll. And I'm wondering what other people are doing regarding that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Looks like we're down to Paul.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Paul Marcosian. My wife and I own Finn's Irish Pub and Flexit Cafe and Bakery. And we have laid off all our staff. First, on the 16th, on the 17th, we closed bins, and then last Friday was our final day at Flexit for now. So my concerns are making sure that my staff is able to get their unemployment claims filed correctly and helping them with that where necessary. Some have done it and already received payments, and others are still waiting. Some have their process hung up by something or other, and it's difficult to get through on the phone right now, understandably, to Department of Labor. Beyond that, of course, we're concerned about cash flow and paying ongoing expenses, but we, we may have to take out a loan, but we'll manage that. The other concern I have right now is we'll try and decide whether and when to reopen. We could be doing takeout, curbside, like some other restaurants are doing, but so far have decided, held off on doing that because I'm not sure how financially feasible it would be, how effective it would be. And then the other thing, I have some food here that I need to get rid of. I've been giving it away to my staff over the last couple of days, perishable food that doesn't freeze well. But if any of you have any suggestions on what I can do with like a 50-pound bag of carrots and some other things like that, I'd appreciate some suggestions.
Okay, thank you, Paul. We are on to Peter.
I'm Peter Leone. Am I on? Hello?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Peter Leone, Heart of Ellsworth, board member and creative director and interested community member.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Looks like we have about 4 people left. We're on to Phyllis.
Hi, I'm Phyllis. Can you hear me all? Can you hear me here?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm the president of the board for Heart of Ellsworth. I'm so happy to see so many folks on board with this call. And I'm also the interim director of Woodlawn Museum. And I guess our challenge is we lost our director on January 13th, and the heels of they came right before the pandemic. And we're struggling with technology, but Tom Beal, who's on this call, has helped us a lot with that. Thank you. But it's bringing up people, up to speed on using like Zoom and so forth to conduct our meetings, which is very foreign to most of them. And we're also, really concerned about planning. How do we plan? And we're watching the Maine tourism and the CDC. We're currently closed, so that's not an issue for us right now. But when do we open? How far out should we, cancel things or what? It's just been very challenging with a young director and so many unknown things. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you, Phyllis. All right, Shannon is also coming up next. So we have Sue and Scott, it looks like.
Hi, I'm Susan and this is Scott. We're business owners in town, and we also own the building. We haven't actually opened yet, so some of our issues are planning. Where does this end? Also, is there a way to garner more online sales for the entire downtown area? And we also make personal care items, and we've just made a big batch of hand sanitizer that we would like to distribute to anyone in need. So that's us.
And we have issues, planning for our new tenants upstairs and their needs and how we can assist them in continuing their businesses. And even just telling potential employees when they start and, resume having income for themselves. So that's some of our things.
Our building is the building that Ruth Foster owned, with the new black and white striped awning.
Can I say welcome? I'm so happy
Thank
to have you
you.
here.
Nice to meet you all.
All right, thank you for being on the call. So we have 2 left, and then we'll go over to our community partners. So we have the Grand is up right now.
Hello, everyone. It is nice to see everybody. We are furloughed, so the staff is fully furloughed, and we're using that term specifically. And I'll be furloughing myself on Sunday, as you can imagine, being the premier social interaction entity in the region. We are very much out of business right now. So, but we locked it down and cleaned it, and everything is ready to go when it's time to get back. I'm sure Nicole and Louie have much more insight into this, but we've been looking specifically at the Paycheck Protection Plan. I'd recommend everyone look that up and look at the Paycheck Protection Plan that's supposed to be passed. And then we've already started the process of filing for an SBA disaster loan, which I would also recommend all businesses take a look at. And I'm dropping a link in the chat there. So we're following those two options specifically, let alone being ready to open our doors and bring everybody downtown again. So everyone hang in there.
All right, thank you. So last on the list that I see is Tom Beal. And just as a reminder, if everyone clicks that chat on the bottom, then you can see kind of a conversation on the right. And that's also where you'll be typing in some questions, and then we'll try to hopefully get a couple of them answered at the end here. So it's on to you, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tom Beal. I'm a partner here at Mac Revival and Archangel Computers. We are open regular hours still. I'm also a landlord and resident here in Ellsworth. The biggest concern that I have right now is regarding making sure that I can retain staff. And also, since my staff are also tenants of mine, that'll be a concern as well. I also want to reach out and say we're doing a lot of remote support for businesses. So we're doing a lot of setups to allow people to get access to their computers from home. So that's something that we're doing a lot of right now.
Okay, thank you so much, Tom. So I'll give a pause to let anyone else speak up that has not, and then I guess that's back to you, Cara.
Thank you. Okay. I just want to say thank you to everybody for taking time to speak up and showing up and sharing your needs and concerns. Again, I can't stress it enough that your needs inform all of our work. And so we need to continue to keep these lines of communication open so that we know how we can be of service to each of you. So now we're going to take a little bit of time to hear from our community partners. And at this time, while you're listening, I'm going to encourage each of you to keep listening to them, but be thinking about what questions you have that pop up during the time that they're speaking. Of course, keep your mics muted and employ the chat feature over on the right side of your screen. Eric and Kirsten and I will be sifting through all of the questions, and then we will be announcing the questions and begin the question and answer session right around 12:40. So at this time, I'm going to introduce Charlene Cates, who is Vice President of Marketing and Community Impact with Machias Savings Bank.
Hi, thank you all for allowing me to join, along with my colleagues Amanda Tupper and Julie Vidham. I'll open the floor for them to speak as well, because we're really all working as a team from Machias Savings Bank. And we're here really to back the businesses that are on Main Street and in our Ellsworth community. As a bank, we're part of the essential service team. So while some people are furloughed and home, others are working longer hours and harder than ever. And so I'll just give you a brief overview of the banking landscape. We have 39,000 customers or households. Imagine trying to get all of them merged through a funnel and using digital banking services at the same time. So we're working really hard to never use digital banking options, using digital banking options. And then we also are working very diligently to modify loans. So a lot of people have mortgages. Every mortgage is different, and depending on the agency that funded that loan, it will look differently as you modify it. But we do have people that are practically around the clock working on modifying existing mortgages, modifying existing consumer loans, and working with our businesses to make sure that their needs are met as well. And we're looking at all those financial health resources. We've all learned this is going to start out as a physical health crisis, and it's going to end up a financial health crisis for many, many Americans. 40% of Americans don't even have $1,000 that they can scrape together in a savings account. I just read a JP Morgan Chase article the other day that was talking about cash flow needs of businesses, and it said the average restaurant only has about 16 days worth of cash flow in reserves. Construction companies are a little over a month, and retail falls somewhere in between. So as this progresses, we're going to have more and more cash flow issues, which we heard from you, rent issues, meeting payroll, doing all those things. So the bank is really gearing up to be able to meet those needs to the best of our ability. We're also, all of our business bankers, we have a team of relationship bankers. The best thing we can tell businesses is call or email, because every business has unique needs, and you're going to want to reach out to your relationship banker to take a holistic approach to what you need for modifying your business loans, your personal loans, your cash flow needs. How do you get digital banking services so that you can remote capture your deposits and do all of that electronically? You really want to talk with someone who's knowledgeable in the field. One of the other things I do want to address is all the different programs that are coming out. Some of the latest and greatest programs may not be best for your business, but some definitely are. Machias Savings Bank is a preferred lender through the SBA. So as all of those guidelines come out, we'll be working to get those loans in place with the business. The struggle that we as a bank are having right now is that the government announced their stimulus package, but all the rules and the regulations that make that money flow haven't fully been put in place yet. So while the package says there's $350 million for the fisheries and a few more millions for this and that, all of the guidelines are not in place. So we have a designated team at Machias Savings Bank that is actively learning all those regulations as they come out and dispersing all that information to our business bankers to be able to do that for you. This really is a community initiative, and we ought to have all hands on deck for that. I'm going to screen share for just a second. This is, I don't know if you can see all of my screen, and I'll end screen share, but we just like, if you bank with a different bank, I guarantee they've got a coronavirus rapid response page that looks just like ours. It basically will keep you updated on how your bank hours are changing, the different electronic banking options. And then down at the bottom of ours, we have additional resources for businesses, and these links change daily. But on there is the FAME Disaster Recovery Loan, the U.S. Small Business Administration site, different documents, PDFs on all the different loan programs through the SBA as they're current right now, and an FDIC resource page. So again, most of your banks will all have that in place to direct you to the right resources that you can get to. As of today, we are announcing a $100,000 grant for nonprofits that need additional funding during this time, and that grant application, the link to it will be on at 5 o'clock tonight on our website, so that the nonprofits can get the access they need. Everything will be done electronically and not through mailing of checks, because we want to expedite those funds, and we also don't want people handling all those resources. So we'll be rolling that out later tonight. Does Amanda or Julie, do you want to mention anything about the bank's commitment? Basically, we want to support the community in any way we can, and ultimately, I think on the other side, we're all going to become stronger, because we're going to build in some digital resources and some ways to connect. We never have to go through this. So we're navigating it alongside of you, and any help we can provide, please let us know. Amanda, do you want to say anything? We'll start with you.
Right. I did want to mention a couple things. I know the Grand mentioned the Paycheck Protection Plan. I do have information about that. If anybody's looking for that information, I can certainly share it with you. It's just, basically we've taken it, like Charlene said, we've got a whole team of people who are constantly looking at the information that's coming out because there's so much information right now. And they're kind of dumbing it down really for me so that I can share it to you, what's important stuff for me to share. So I do have information about that. And I mean, like Charlene said, if we're not your bank, that's fine. Your bank should have this information, but I'm still willing to share it with you to tell you how to apply for it, so that you guys are, you know, doing everything you can for your employees. I see the Small Business Relief Act information and the disaster loan information has been shared as well, but we do have that on our website, or I can certainly email it to you. I'll share my email address if you have any questions. Of course, we're all more than willing to get you information, whatever information that you need.
Yes, and I would like to say, in addition to Amanda, Annette Lease is our financial health coach at the bank, and she is screen sharing and walking people through how to file for that unemployment stuff. If you need a contact there to do that, she's willing to assist you with that as well. Julie, would you like to say anything? I'm not sure whether Julie's locked, so. Does anyone else have anything for us at Machias Savings Bank?
Okay, in the interest of making sure that we get to everybody, I just want to say thank you so much, Charlene. You gave us a visual, which was an added bonus, and truly great information there. So I'm going to move on to Nicole Grohoski, our state representative.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to see you all, so many familiar faces, and thank you to the Heart of Ellsworth for putting this together. I think it's such a good time to hear from people about what they're working on, what they're thinking about, what the challenges are, but also what the positives are. It was so exciting to hear about hand sanitizer being made right in downtown Ellsworth, for instance, and people willing to donate fabrics or food that's available. So I just think, as was just said, that this is making our community stronger, and that's really, although it's stressful, it's really amazing to see it and be a part of it. So thank you. I think you probably have some of the information that I want to share, but there might be some extra bits, and it usually doesn't hurt to repeat things. So I am going to talk a little bit about what we've done at the state level, and I'm sure that Louie will chime in on things I missed. And then, of course, overarching all this is the fact that the federal government is about to act, or maybe they acted while I was on another Zoom call. I don't know, actually. But so much of the relief that you're looking for and that your employees are looking for is going to come through that stimulus package, I think. And the federal delegation is going to be talking with us at the state level about what those numbers mean for Maine. For example, you heard about the millions of dollars for fishermen. We're going to find out, what does that mean for Maine? We're going to find about how does that money that's headed in our direction affect people like you all. So more soon on that. But from the state level, I'm sure you're aware that there's the small business economic injury disaster loans that we're eligible for here in Maine. That I know that is helping some folks, and other folks are being denied, but it's certainly worth looking at if you need to. And it's so great to have the local banks offering options as well, of course. We're getting a lot of questions about unemployment. I was on a call yesterday with the Department of Labor Commissioner, and I know that it might not affect you, but it may affect your employees, and I'm glad to hear that so many of you are helping your employees with this. But we know that there's issues getting through the phone lines. They do recommend that line application process if possible, because their staff can work through that more easily sometimes. And the big take home that I got from talking with the commissioner is that if someone is denied, they should wait and reapply. The situation is always changing. For example, a new quarter starts on April 1st. So people that were denied based on particular numbers right now may become eligible on April 1st. Additionally, once the federal stimulus package is passed, that is going to change things in terms of extending unemployment benefits to people who have already used their benefits or to people who wouldn't normally be eligible. And so it's going to be important to apply and to encourage folks to reapply at that time as well. So an answer of no today does not necessarily mean that it's no forever. And thank you for having patience with the system as we are trying to help so many people. The claims have been just a really high number. And I'm glad that we have a system to help with that. So hopefully that's helpful information for your employees, as well as you if it applies to you. The other thing that came to mind listening to some of the concerns and ideas that you all had was the work share program through the Maine Department of Labor. And that's an opportunity to help employees who have had reduced hours receive partial unemployment benefits. So that might be a way to keep your business moving along to the extent that you can, providing some additional financial support for employees, but also retaining your employees through this. So they don't have to be fully unemployed, they can be partially unemployed. And I will add that I sent quite a number of links to Kirsten, including that information that she'll send out with the minutes. Another thing I was thinking about is this has been relatively new about the differentiation between are you an essential business or not? And I don't know if anyone's struggling with that or if you know businesses that are. But if you believe that you are essential and it's not clear what class you fit in, there is the opportunity to apply for that designation from the state. And I sent that link as well to Kirsten. That may come in handy for you, I don't know. Another thing I was wanting to say about the unemployment, another tip, if you have people who have specific questions, you can also find out information by contacting the career centers. There is one in Ellsworth, but if the Ellsworth line is busy, you can call any of the career centers in the state and they will help people navigate the online system, or if somebody doesn't have access to the internet. That's another way to get to somebody via the phone that's not the Department of Labor phone lines. And those centers are also being staffed. So it's just another opportunity if you have people who are getting different errors back that they really need to talk to somebody to talk through it. That's an option as well. I'm sure there's so many other things, but I want to leave Louie some things to talk about, and he's probably trying to figure out what those are. We didn't have a chance to chat too much today before this, but at the end, I think there's going to be time for questions, and at that point, I'm happy to try to answer anything from the state level that we might have missed. And I also am interested in addressing this concern about communications, because I certainly have spent a lot of time seeing what the different organizations are offering in this region, but also talking to folks, and I have felt a need for this as well. And I don't have an idea about who should be that centralizing resource, or if there could be more than one. The city comes to mind for obvious reasons, and they do have a robust website going, and that might be a place that we look at and see if there's a way we can all contribute to that, to have that be the central clearinghouse. So I'm interested in having more conversation on that front and seeing how I can help as a person who is trying to see what's happening in the community and see how everyone can connect. So happy to play a role in that way as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you very much. Moving on to Shannon Byers from SBDC and Coastal Enterprises.
Good afternoon, everyone. Cara and Heart of Ellsworth for organizing this. I think this is fantastic to have such a way for business owners to kind of get together as a community. My role at CEI, I am the center director and a business advisor with the Small Business Development Center. And so we provide business advising to businesses that any stage of their business and help with just about everything. The last 2 weeks, we've spent a lot of time helping people fill in the SBA economic injury loan application. And I will say the process has been streamlined a bit since last week. So if you're just getting to the point where you're going to be filling out that application, you're lucky. We were spending 6 to 8 hours with some clients walking them through the previous application. So that's gone away. It's now 2 forms that you fill out, very simple, and you can upload them. If anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer those. Also, I think for the SBA loan, I mean, they're suggesting everybody apply, but we are hearing a lot of people getting declined. So a couple of pieces, they want to have, it seems like they're lending to people that have relatively good credit, ability to repay the loan, and some sort of collateral if the loan is over $25,000. So some things to keep in mind. If you do get declined, you have a six-month period where you can appeal it and provide other information and try to get the loan. We are, again, waiting for the new legislation that hopefully is passing today, which is going to have some changes to that loan program and potentially move it to you have to work with a bank to go through it. So lots of things changing. Every day, pieces and parts are moving. So I'm trying to stay informed. We have 12 business advisors across the state, so we're all collecting information, trying to be informed, and trying to work with individuals to help them get through that process. I guess the only other thing I would add is at CEI, we do have access to a credit counselor. So I know, like, through this time, it's going to be really difficult to try to maintain your credit, but it'll be important for long-term survival and just being able to keep your options open. So the best you can conserve your credit through this, the better. You'll have options available to you once we get on the other side of this. So if anybody's interested, I'm happy to connect you to them. They work by phone. They'll do a credit report for you. They'll go through it. They can be really helpful. And then I guess my just last point to make, we do, whenever there's a time of crisis or difficulty, that's when innovation and creativity really start to come through. I notice when things are really well and we have a strong economy, we don't innovate and we don't get creative. And so I encourage you all to look at this as an opportunity to say, hey, what can I do different? Or what can I do different? Or what can I do better? I love the fact that several of you offered up, like, how can I help? Or here's how I can help. I think that's great. So hang in there, everyone. I know it's tough right now. Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help. I'll forward my contact info to Cara.
Shannon, might you put your email address just in the chat feature?
Yep.
Thank you so much. That'll be great. Then people will be able to connect directly with you. Shannon, thank you so much. Downtown Ellsworth Merchants, we are so lucky to have on a normal day, day-to-day basis, having Shannon right in downtown Ellsworth. Her office is right in downtown, across the street from the post office. So we are incredibly lucky in this time to be sort of part of the county seat. So thank you, Shannon. And I'm going to hand things over to Louie. Louie, thank you for taking the time out of your day today to be with us, and take it away.
Great. Thanks, Cara. And can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. Well, thanks for putting this together and everybody coming on today. Really, I saw it as an opportunity just to listen to the concerns from all of you. Obviously, you have their boots on the ground in the business community, just to see what we can do to help from the legislature's standpoint, and what you're seeing with your businesses, your employees. Obviously, this is a unprecedented. Charlene described it well, that it's kind of begun as a public health crisis, and really the financial and economic implications are what we're really starting to see now. And a lot of people have mentioned planning, trying to figure out when things can reopen. And honestly, we really don't know how this is going to continue to progress, and that's kind of one of the frustrating things. But the situation is rapidly changing, and we kind of just have to respond as it goes. So it's hard to give concrete answers on even something as simple as when schools are going to reopen. So I think Nicole did a great job of outlining what the state did in terms of our response. Basically, we did a supplemental budget that was primarily focused on responding to the coronavirus crisis. That was largely funding our direct care workers, public health nursing, trying to make sure those public health infrastructure was in place, as well as the COVID response that did things like expanding unemployment as well as loans. And as everybody's kind of mentioned, I think the thing that we're all waiting on is the federal action. Obviously, the feds can deficit spend and do things that we can't do on the state level, issuing $2 trillion of stimulus. So waiting for what they're going to do is going to be huge. One of the biggest areas that I've heard from local businesses is if you are a self-employed or sole proprietor, technically you don't qualify for unemployment insurance. And that's something that, I've been working with the federal delegation. I think Nicole's also signed on to some requests to see that gets included in the federal stimulus package. And from what I'm being told, we're still going through it. It's like 900 pages and it was just out yesterday. But I'm being told that expanding the unemployment for self-employed people or sole proprietors will be included, which I think would be huge supports for those businesses where they don't qualify under, current law. Also, we have been hearing that people have been getting rejected on SBA loans. Supposedly, I'm looking through some of our bullet points of what's in the federal law, and there's supposed to be at least $10 billion in direct grants for businesses that don't qualify for SBA loans. But again, as was just laid out, we're just seeing kind of the top line headlines, and we're not seeing the way that these things are going to be rolled out, the guidelines, the rulemaking, as well as how quickly it can be deployed. And that's going to be the real focus for us going forward, is to see how those things can be done. So I think, we're just going to continue to work with the federal delegation to see how we can help people. And obviously things are changing by the minute. We did delay the tax deadline, which I think a lot of people had called about, to July 15th to match. It took us a little while to be sure that we could make that leap because unlike the federal government, we have to have a balanced budget, and that pushes it outside of our fiscal year. But now that the stimulus package looks like it's going through, we'll be able to ensure that we have a balanced budget and can do that. So that's one resource that will hopefully be helpful for people, especially if you can't go to an accountant and see them because of the recent executive order on essential and non-essential businesses. And as Nicole pointed out, that's something that if you'd like to be considered essential, or businesses that would like to be considered essential, it's something that you can apply for. And I've talked to a number of, for instance, landscape businesses who you basically work on your own. So it's not like there's a lot of social interaction, and it's kind of like a construction type of industry. So, being able to apply for and get clarification on what is or isn't essential will be big for a lot of our local businesses that may not fit like neatly within all the categories that have been outlined. So with that, I think I'll wrap up, but happy to field questions.
Thank you, Louie. And thank you everyone for the updates from your office. It's very helpful for all of us on this call. I am going to transition to questions. Again, Eric will be moderating, and we'll see if there are any of them from folks in the chat feature. And we also will be sure to connect all of these to you folks after this call. Again, this is recorded, and we will be connecting the list of links that Nicole sent to Kirsten and I earlier today. So go ahead, Eric.
Sure. We didn't get a ton of questions, but I had some notes from the original introductions. There's maybe a quick one someone can answer. from Deidre. It says where we'll be able to track and find, I guess, the latest developments about self-employment, unemployment. So I didn't know if someone can post a link or has a quick answer for that one.
Shannon, might that be something that you could address?
I think so. I've been using the Department of Labor. They've got a site there with information. I think that's probably the best source. And Nicole, did you just post something? Is that for the unemployed? No, that's something different.
Well, that's sort of, and I sent this to Kirsten as well, but it's a site put on by, or a website from the National Conference of State Legislators that breaks down in a really understandable way what is happening with the stimulus package, and it's broken up into if you're a business, if an environmental concern, whatever it is. So that is sort of an overview of what to expect. But Shannon's absolutely right that the state's Department of Labor is going to outline as soon as that law is passed what that means for Mainers and for the process of applying through their system. So that will be the place to look when the time comes.
And we do at CEI have a couple of policy people that are planning to kind of summarize in layman's terms anything that comes out. And we're trying to be cautious not to over communicate too much information because sometimes I think it's overwhelming. But if anybody's interested, I have a coronavirus email list that I am sending out information. I'm happy to put people on it if they want. And when that comes out from CEI, I can send that along.
Okay, thank you. I have a question that I'm kind of making up based off of what I gathered, but Kyra and I talked about this yesterday, and a few of you probably heard the story, but there's a couple examples relating to the kind of central point of communication. So I heard on Maine Public, I believe there was like a farm owner who kind of made that shared spreadsheet to kind of let people know where they could get, fresh produce and milk and stuff. And then it got picked up by the University of Maine and they ended up making a website, but that got turned around in about 5 days, I believe. And there's other examples in, say, Seattle, where people are using kind of Facebook groups to help people in the community that maybe can't leave their house or whatnot. So I guess a question for someone, and this could probably be open to everyone, is, like you said, what's the best resource to get that done, and who would kind of be in charge of it? Because I think if we had a centralized website or whatnot where we can kind of have a community aspect of it, and then also like be able to support local businesses that are open, that might be something that's helpful.
Yeah, I was trying to find the link, Eric, but I haven't been able to find it. The Maine Cooperative Extension took over the farm drop. I forwarded that email along to a lot of the farmers that we work with to produce the Ellsworth Farmers Market. And so what I'll do is I'll find that later on and see if I can mail that to everybody as just a tool that maybe possibly we could employ here in downtown. Heart of Ellsworth doesn't really have the bandwidth to be able to balance the daily work that we need to do on behalf of our downtown merchants and to do this. We only have a staff of a half-person staff. So at this point in time, we're trying to make the most of our time by sort of organizing things that are making immediate sense, and then trying to also be balancing that with thinking about things that are a little bit 2-3 months down the road. One thing that I did want to ask, Pamela Elias from Rooster Brother asked a question at the beginning of the call, and she asked, what are others doing around their staff? And I just wanted to ask Pamela, I know Paul spoke about it, and possibly maybe a couple of other downtown business owners, but was your question answered, Pamela, about what other folks are doing with staff and how they're meeting the needs of salary and the possibility of furloughing, things like that?
We heard from Paul. I don't remember other people. As we're still open, we can be paying people. I know there are people in a situation. Going forward, I don't know. Right now, we're paying everybody, but I was interested in the work share program because we could cut some hours back and people could still get paid their full amount. That would be great. I'll look into that.
Okay, great, great. I'm glad to hear that.
Thanks.
Yes, absolutely. And I think.
I had a quick question about sort of seasonal staff, which is sort of our situation. We have seasonal staff that come in May through October, and with things sort of uncertain, if we had to, can they go on unemployment even though their start date hasn't happened yet? Like, do they apply at their start date if there's a need at that point? Like when, like how long do they have to wait if they're a seasonal worker? This is what we're sort of confused and grappling with.
Shannon, might you have an idea or a resource where Kirsten can go directly to find that information, or?
It's a really good question, and I don't know the answer, but I think I would say in the next week, like more information is going to be coming out. You can try contacting the Department of Labor and see if they can answer that question. If I come across it, I'm happy to pass it along, but I don't know for sure. Like, do they actually have to be employed in order to get unemployment?
Right, they're past employees from last season,
yes,
anticipating starting May 1st.
Right, and so as long as they've paid into the unemployment insurance, they're eligible for it. But at this point, do they consider last year as paying into it? Does that count towards this year? I don't know. It's a good question.
My understanding is it has to do with a rolling average of 5 quarters, and did you make a certain amount during at least 2 of those quarters, I think. But if there's specific questions that our staff communicate with the Department of Labor every day with sort of a list of questions, so I can put that on the list, Kirsten, and see, and the staff might already know the answer to that because somebody in the state has probably already asked it, and I can email you directly.
And maybe just have them apply to get the ball rolling.
That's what they've said to us, is just apply.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, if you have any question, apply, because everything is really case by case, and they want to help people through those specific details.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any, Eric, are there any other questions that have sifted to the top that seem to be asked by a lot of folks?
I didn't see a whole lot else. Obviously staff retention, unemployment, centralized communication. And I believe there was a question further up about something to do with communication from, was it like the Ellsworth kind of emergency management?
Yes, I saw that as well. Maybe Louie or Nicole might be able to address that. Do you folks have any insight into the Hancock County disaster?
It says right here, role of Hancock County Emergency Management Agency in communications. From my vantage point, they don't seem to be participating.
Yep.
Right. So we primarily work with MEMA, the Maine state branch, I guess, of the Emergency Management Agency. So they've been working hand in hand with the CDC. So I haven't had as much direct relationship with the Hancock County specifically. But I think that the MEMA and the National Guard, there's some significant increased funding for that in the federal bill in the event that they're needed for some of these things. I know at least 3 states have activated their National Guard. And so MEMA's technically under the Department of Defense, and it's the commissioner is the adjutant general. So I know they're working very closely with the CDC, but I think generally they try to send everybody to the Maine CDC and the US CDC for particular health type of information. Not sure if that's
Okay, thank you. And it looks like Barbara from Bug Connection, I think might have come on a little bit later, but there was a question about, did she see sales tax having an extension until July 15th?
This is Nicole. I was just looking at the press statement that the governor put out that Louie shared in the chat, which says sales tax and payroll payments will continue as normal. So I hope that answers that question.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to stick them in the chat bar, and also feel free to email me, which I will put my email address in the chat bar. Most of you probably have it, as I've been connecting with all of you. I think that's how you're here today. But also, please feel free, if it seems like one of our 4 presenters seem like a good fit for your questions. I believe that you have all of their email addresses again, but we will send it. I do want to thank all of you for being on this call again. Your participation informs all of our work. We really need to hear from you folks in order to be able to know how best to spend our time. And we hope that this was helpful, and we also want to stay connected with each of you. So we'd like to meet again next Friday, which is April 3rd. I am going to send out another Survey Monkey with a couple of other survey questions, because again, a lot of times people reply to those, but they can't make the call, or vice versa. So that sort of information is really important. I'm able to take all of that information and I'm able to give it to Machias Savings Bank and to share it with Shannon at SBDC, and of course, Nicole and Louie. And that information is just really helpful for them to be able to know how best to advocate for each of you. So if the other thing I want to say too is, if you feel that someone is missing this information that should be on this call or should be on our email list, please forward their email to me, or just press the forward button on the emails that I'm sending you. And hopefully that person will then chime in and send me back their email, or somehow or another just connect us, because we need to be able to reach as many folks in downtown as are interested in engaging. So I hope everyone has a relaxing weekend, and that you all remember that we're super lucky to live in a place where we are able to go outside. And I encourage you folks to take part in going to the Frenchman Bay Conservancy trails. I know we can't go to Acadia National Park, but some of these small, tiny land conservation trusts are sort of our best resources at this time. You can go to Woodlawn, and just remember that those places are there and still open and available to all of us. So, and Lemoyne Beach, thank you, whoever said that. Yeah, we all kind of know where to go, so we're pretty lucky here. So thank you very much, and we'll be signing off when everyone's ready.